but you're not. You're from West Africa and it's a fact. You were Moor, so you really don't like being black. But it's whack, cause your ancestors really said that they was that. Say it loud, black and I'm proud. Yeah, feel like James Brown. He ain't say shit about.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, again, Moor.
Yeah, we can hear it. Yep.
To a people, to an empire.
Let me play this back. Now, this is Jose Pimenta Bay. He's a Moor. He's been a Moor for over 30 years. All right. He got a PhD. This is a very educated brother. He's a historian. Check him out. And he's going to speak on, are we Moor? What are the ancestry of Moors? Where do they come from? Are they from America or are they from Africa? So let's let the brother speak.
Yeah, again, Moor is a reference to a people, to an empire that covered a geographical location. The Moorish Empire at one time was from the northwestern part of the Maghreb or North Africa all the way down to the Senegal River and as far east as the border of Egypt. That's part of what, and I'm just talking about what we know as the recognized Moorish Empire in terms of international diplomatic history and relations. So we can say that covers a wide swath of the African continent. That would include Africans of various hues, people who would be darker in complexion and others who'd be lighter in complexion. And the primary sources from Duarte, Portuguese travelers, and Azrara and English sources all affirm that the term Moor was used for people of African ancestry. All affirm that the term Moor was used for people of African ancestry.
African ancestry, not America. He did not show us anything that proved that we were from America. He just showed you a bunch of pictures and then put his own interpretation to those photos. That is not scholarship. Where are the sources at, my young brother? I'm not here to attack you today. I'm here to teach you. Now let's tell the people what a Moor is. Why are we talking about Moors if we can't define what a Moor is? A Moor is a North African Berber, one of the race dwelling in Barbary, late 14th century, from Old French Moor, from medieval Latin Moris, from Latin Moris, inhabitant of Mauritania, Roman Northwest Africa, a region now corresponding to northern Algeria and Morocco, from Greek Moros, perhaps a native name, or else cognate with Moros, black. So if we know that the etymology of the word Moor means black, why are you Moors still calling yourselves black? If the etymology means black and you say you don't want to be called black because the white man names you that, why call yourself Moor if it means black? Also applied to the Arabic conquerors of Spain, being a dark people in relation to Europeans. Their name in the Middle Ages was a synonym for Negro. Once again, why are you calling yourself a Negro by calling yourself a Moor? How do you run from the English and then still end up being a Negro, still end up being black, still end up being Ethiopian? So you picked the wrong name, being the nearest Muslims to Western Europe. It was used indiscriminately of Muslims, Persians, Arabs, but especially those in India. Now, this is from Thorndike plus Barnhart Dictionary. Moor, a person of a race related to the Arabs living in the northwestern Africa in the 8th century. The Moors invaded and conquered Spain. They were finally driven out in 1492. See, he says, well, he tried to play with y'all intelligence and say YK is using English. but you just used English. None of your info, you wasn't speaking French, Akkadian, none of that. So miss me with that. And these people were there at that time that predates the transatlantic slave trade in Africa. So they witnessed Moors being called that. So you can't say they wasn't living there at that time when they were living there at that time. Now, this is from J.A. Rogers, Sex and Race, Volume 1. And it says, the Numidians of classic antiquity were a Negro people. Sir William Smith says that the word Maori, from which comes Mauritania, means black. So why are you still calling yourself black? Everywhere you go, it's black, it's Negro, and in some places it's Ethiopian. But Noble Drew Ali said, don't call yourself that. Don't call yourself that. So why are you calling yourself a Moor if it means that anyways? Let's keep going. Now, let me zoom in right here. And it says, this is from, let me go back. This is from J.A. Rogers, Nature Knows No Color Line, right? And it says right here, Moor, the race as it occurs in European heraldry, always means Negro. Moor's head, says Berry, in the heraldic term for the head of a black or Negro man. Abbott says, Moor's head, the head of a Negro. And this definition is etymologically connect. Excuse me, let me drink some water real quick. The Greeks, as was said, used moros to mean black. Once again, you're being described as black, dark, woolly hair. So these are descriptions of what these people were. So I'm showing you the description of a Moor. To Claudian, Moors, Ethiopian, and the Grecians, that is Negro, were one and the same. Let me repeat that. According to Claudian, Moors, Ethiopians, and the Grecians, that is Negroes, were one and the same. He speaks of the Moors who dwelt beside the water of Gur, most famous of the rivers of Ethiopia, Niger. All right. So you still being called Ethiopian. Moor means that. Moor means Ethiopian. Moor means Negro. And this is from J.A. Rogers. All right. Now let's go to my next source. This is a map from 1747. This is a map of Negro land. And you see at the top, you see Barbary, right? That's North Africa. Then you see down here, it's called Negro land. So there's a place in Africa called Negro land. So for all of y'all who don't want to accept the fact that Negro means African, most of the time, here, you got to hold that. All right. Now let me go to my next source. And this is Nature Knows No Color Line again. It says Moor means black, Moros. All right. Now we're going to deal with when we ruled. They even have a haplogroup. So we can go to genetics. There are a number of different sickle cell haplotypes among them that are Benin haplotype, the Senegalese haplotype, the Asian and the Arab haplotype, etc. Had the Islamic culture been predominantly Arab, it would have been the Asian Arab haplotype that would have been introduced into the Portuguese population between the 8th and the 13th century, and not the Benin haplotype. So these people even have a haplotype, and this proves that they are from Africa. Furthermore, the researchers have been able to distinguish between the sickle cell imported after the 15th century from the sickle cell imported between the 8th and the 13th centuries. This separates the sickle cell introduced by enslaved Africans from that introduced by African conquerors. This is strong evidence that the majority of Moors, Berbers were Negroes who carried the Benin haplotype into Portuguese population. So it means that Moors were African. Excuse me. Now, let's keep going. So we got haplotype. Now, this is from Othello's Children in the New World.
11 minutes, big bro. 11 minutes.
Appreciate you. It says the 4th century, and I spoke on this, chronicler Claudian indicated that Moors were directly related to the early Negritians in Ethiopia. I could skip that. Now that we know what a Moor is, we could speak on Noble Jew Ali. The young brother doesn't understand the history. This is why he didn't teach us about the Moorish temple, because he's confused. All right. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a sect of Islamic religion that teaches the uplifting of fallen humanity and making of better citizens. Symbols of this religion include the star and crescent, fezzes, turbans, the Moorish flag, and the addition of El of Bay. See, he wants you to get rid of El or Bay. You ever ask yourself why PNA doesn't claim the L in the Bay? Because, as you know, that's of African descent. I'm going to show you that too. So he don't want to hold on to anything that's African. He want to clinch to America, and he's willing to cherry pick to do it. But I'm not going to allow that. It says this sect was started by the prophet Noble Jew Ali, who was born in 1889 in North Carolina. Ali claimed he was sent to redeem the Moors of America from their sinful ways. The Moors of America were defined as descendants of Northern Africans. It doesn't say Americans. He preached the importance of being oneself, how to be better citizens, and to uplift fallen citizens, teaching them to be attributes to the government. He also taught the importance of racial pride. So if the Noble Jew Ali taught the importance of racial pride, why is this confused young brother denying his African origins? It doesn't make sense. Let me go to my next slide. Now, here are some of Noble Jew Ali's laws, because he wants you to believe that God is a woman too. And it's a moon god in Alat, in mother god. But what does it say in the Quran? Or do you follow this Quran? Who made you, Allah? Who is Allah? Allah is who made you? Allah. Who is Allah? Allah is the father of the universe. Can we see him? No. Now let's stop right there. Does it say anything about a mother god? No. So why are you tampering with the teachings of Noble Jew Ali? And you call yourself a real Moor? Where is the nearest place we can meet him? In the heart. Who is Noble Jew Ali? He's Ali, Allah's prophet. What is a prophet? A prophet is a thought of Ali manifested in the flesh. Who is the duty? What is the duty of a prophet? To save nations from the wrath of Allah. Who is the founder of the Moorish Science Temple? Noble Jew Ali. Now let's go to the nationality. What is his nationality? Moorish American. What is your nationality? Moorish American. Why are we Moorish Americans? Because we are descendant of Moroccans. Where is Morocco? It's in Northwest Africa. So if you were descendant of Morocco, that means you're an African. This is what this is about. So don't try to tell the people here that they Aboriginal when it clearly says Moroccan. You did not show one word in Moabite language or in native language that proved Morocco was America. No, what you did was you went to something called American. This is what you did. And you said, well, this means American. Let me show you what he did, people. Here it goes right here. Not to mention that these people are of African descent. Excuse me. It says it right here. Americans. Some of these Afro-American veterans were doubtless African born, and in Trinidad, they referred to themselves as Africans. So they even referred to themselves as Africans, even if persons outside of their community often called them Americans or Americans. So the people called them that, not themselves. The people referred to them as that, but they knew where they came from. But what did PNF do? He tried to say, well, this means that they Americans. No, it just means that you cherry picking the information. Those people knew that they were African. You failed. You got to hold that. Now, let me go back up to where I was at. Now, let's go right here. Excuse me. It says, and this is from another source from Othello's Children. It says, it indicates that the origins and links which the organization's founder and prophet Drew Ali attributed to the Moors, although it shows that the Moorish scientists, Moors were understood to have genealogical links to ancient peoples outside of Africa. It also understood that such peoples were still phenotypically Africoid. You know how y'all love to go with lookership and say, look at the American, those was brown people here. Those people were still phenotypically Africoid. Yet many Eurocentric Western scholars treatment have attempted to de-Africanize the Moors and de-emphasize their connections to Africa. This is what PNF is doing. He's doing the same thing as those Eurocentric so-called scholars, trying to de-Africanize the Moors because of the great things that they did.
4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Like, conquer Europe and teach Europe. So they don't want African people to go over there and to have that history. So why would PNF say that those are the Moors, but put them in America? He wants to say that they are American and Morocco is America. But if Morocco meant America, why put the American after it? Doesn't that mean American? You just saying the same thing twice, like you said about A1 when he used Amaru. Wouldn't that be American? See, you a hypocrite. Now, it says right here, what is the modern name of the Moabites? Moroccans. Where is Moroccan Empire? Northwest Amexem. What is the modern name for Amexem? Africa. What is the title given to our ruler in Morocco? Sultan. So it's basically letting you know that the Moroccan Empire is not in America. But on the face-off, you lied on Noble Drew Ali. You made people think that he said America was Morocco, when he clearly said that it's Africa. Do you see it? Do you want me to blow it up? There, go right there. What is the modern name of the Moabites? Moroccans. Where is the Moroccan Empire? Northwest Amexem. What is the modern name for Amexem? Africa. It doesn't say America. Stop lying on your prophet, man. And you should have bought some sauces because your presentation looked horrible. But I digress. In the famous words of root words, I digress. Let me go to my next. Now let's talk about the acts. Oh, these are acts, and this is from the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act number 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. The other day, you act like you didn't know what a nationality was. And we are teaching our people their nationality in their divine creed, that they may know that they are part of a partial of this said government. Now, if you don't want the white man to give you a color, why do you want to be a part of his government? And know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. Well, I just showed you the etymology, and it's Negro, it's black, and it's Ethiopians. So why are you still calling yourself a Moor? because these names were given to the slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasting until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. So let me skip down because I know I'm running out of time. It says right here, the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. It says nothing about America. So every time you say that, you lying on Noble Drew Ali. See, when I think of people like PNF, I think of these little blood sets and these little gangs who forget the OGs who created it. So they want to come and create their little sets and then abandon the ways of the OGs and just run amok and terrorize the streets because they don't stand on nothing. This is what I get from PNF. He don't stand on nothing because once you throw your master teacher or your prophet under the bus, we can't trust you. Now, this is from Jack D. Forbes, all right? And it says right here, this was especially true in the Iberian Peninsula and Mediterranean area, but undoubtedly many of the Moors and Blackamoors who came to England in Shakespeare's day were of North African as well as sub-Saharan background and from many distinct nations. It doesn't say nothing about America. Check
time. You got a 5-minute rebuttal getting into your second round. You got to unmute yourself.
All right, can you see my screen? All right, cool, I see it.
Yep.
All right, so PNF was saying, you can hear me?
Yep, time start now.
All right, bet. So PNF made it like I didn't acknowledge that the Asian part. When I read this source, he said outside of Africa, but it's also understood that such people were still phenotypically Africoid. So I didn't forget that part, bro. So, and when you want to talk about the word inhabitant, basically it's one who dwells in a place as distinguished from a visitor. All right. So they there. All right. Now, this is from the history of Algiers. And it says the original name was Berbers because the land where they first settled was a desert. The Africans insist they the first inhabitants of the Barbary are descended from the tribe of Sabians. Now, this is from Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. And it says, now again, who just are the Moors? The answer is very easy. The original Moors, just like the original Egyptians, were Black Africans, not Americans. As amalgamation became more and more widespread, only the Berbers, Arabs, and Coloureds in the Moroccan territories were called Moors, while the darkest and black-skinned Africans were called Blackamoors. Eventually, black was dropped from Blackamoor in North Africa, in Morocco in particular. All Muslim Arabs, mixed breeds, and Berbers are readily regarded as Moors. See, you got to understand, all throughout history, people wanted to not be affiliated with being African. This is not something that's new. Your ancestors has been doing this because they didn't want to get treated like second-class citizens then. We're not even talking about the 1920s. We're talking about all the way back then. So they didn't, even the mixed breeds didn't want to acknowledge that African side. This is not nothing new. And I'm going to tell you where you get this Morocco thing from. Remember, I told you about an incident. Now, this is an incident. Now, this is from Booker T. Washington. It says, Booker T. Washington, let me start from the top. Ali further asserts that American blacks are Moorish Americans. being descendants of Moroccan and born in America, in a distinct subgroup of the Asiatic nation. But Morocco had become the home of the Moabites only in recent centuries, since Ali posits a migration of biblical Moabites. So we know that this is mythology. We're dealing with the biblical Moabites. Now that means I could beat you up with the him, the shem, and all of that. You got to hold that, because that's the loophole right there. But Morocco, it said, the African continent. There they founded the Moroccan Empire, which spread from Morocco to rule over most of Africa as well as the Americas. Now listen, this is how you know it's based on mythos. In the Atlantis Islands, before the Atlantic Ocean was created by a massive earthquake that cut the Moors off from their distant dominions. So we know that's Pangea. So we dealing with spookism right there on Noble Drew Ali's part. Noble Drew Ali's plan to identify African Americans with Morocco was an astute one. Why? Why out of all places he picked Morocco? And we're going to explain to you why. Unlike virtually every other land in Africa, Morocco, along with Ethiopia and Liberia, were the only countries to escape complete colonial domination. Ali may have planned for Moorish Americans to benefit from the type of protection afforded other immigrants by their home countries, embassies, and consulates in the United States. And Ali's belief that Moroccan subjects could and did enjoy the special rights in the United States not allowed African Americans was not far-fetched. So basically, he got a bright idea. Like, maybe if I claim to be a Moor, we would be treated as a Moor and not as a Negro. Black popular culture contains stories of Black North Africans escaping racial discrimination in the United States. For example, in his classic and influential work of Uplift Ideology Up from Slavery, Booker T. Washington remarked favorably upon an 1879 incident whereby a Black man was refused service in a white-owned hotel in the southern town. Because he spoke English, the man in question was assumed to be an African American. However, after he managed to prove his Moroccan citizenship, hotel staff apologized and granted him service. Many African Americans recognized that Americans had constructed Blackness such that Black identity had specifically to do with being American, particularly if one was also from the South. Excuse me, let me slow down. Further, while many Moroccans were ethnically Arab, enough of Moorish or Moroccan citizenry was Black, and that the exact characteristics of a Moor were fluid, leaving the door open for Black Americans to claim African Moroccan ancestry. Because we had a lot of Africans who were Moors who came over from West Africa. This is why we started messing with Islam, so we can not be treated like a second-class citizen. They even had literatures that said the more Muslims were smarter than the average Africans. You know, so there was always a stereotype against non-Muslims. Now, this is a man, this is from Slavery Images, a visual record of the African slave trade. This engraving of a crayon drawing shows Abdul Rahman Ibn Ibrahimi Sori, who was in Fulbi or Fulani. Emer was born and educated in Timbuktu in the western Savannah region, but was enslaved in
17 minutes, big bro. 17 minutes.
And was enslaved in the Fuda Jalam, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing these, area of Senegambia region. Sold to the British, he was then taken to the Caribbean islands of Dominica, where he briefly stayed until he went to New Orleans. where he was resold to a cotton plantation near Sanchez, Mississippi. Upon learning of his noble lineage, his slave master, Thomas Foster, began referring to him as a prince, as a title he kept until his final days. After spending 40 years in slavery, he was freed in 1828 by the order of U.S. President John Quincy Adams and Secretary of State Henry Clay after the Sultan of Morocco requested his release. He ultimately reached Liberia, where he died in 1829, and 8 of his descendants were born in the Americas, migrated to Liberia in 1830 from Norfolk, Virginia, on a ship chartered by the missionary. So basically, we have examples like this where you claim that Moroccan, you had benefits. So Noble Drew Ali said, you know, maybe if we call ourselves Moors, we can get treated like them. But the ideology didn't fit. It contradicted itself because all throughout history, Moor meant Negro, black, and so in Ethiopian. So you couldn't run through that. And just because you call yourself a Moor doesn't mean you wasn't going to get treated like a Negro. Becoming a Moor doesn't stop you from being treated like a Negro. Red funeral today for Brooklyn Negro shot dead by cops. This is Fletcher Bay. New York, a red funeral will be held today for Fletcher Bay, Negro worker in Brooklyn who was shot by police March 10th as part of their campaign of terrorism against Negro and white workers. So off the bat, even though he called himself a Moor, they were still calling himself a Negro. So being a Moor did not protect black people in America. Calling yourself a Moor didn't stop you from being shot. The funeral procession will start from the undertaking parlors, 1865 Fulton Street, Brooklyn at 2 p.m. All workers are being urged to attend. Fletcher Bay died Sunday in the prison ward. So you can read that. The link is right there. Daily worker. So calling yourself a Moor don't stop you from being treated like a Negro. Now, this is from Golden Age of a Moor by Ivan Van Sertima. You guys love to claim Ivan Van Sertima, so why not use him? Let me beat you up with your own people that y'all use. So this is a Moorish commander of a black troop. This Moor is of mixed African and Arabian blood. Nowhere does it say American. And this guy, what did he do? Yusuf laid the foundation of the town of Morocco. Not this guy, but another guy. Yusuf laid the foundation of the town of Morocco with his own hands, and not long after declared the independence of the northern kingdom of which he was to become the capital. Thus, a black Moor appropriately founded the city of Morocco. All right. How much time I got left?
13 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right, 13 minutes and 30 seconds. So we're going to talk about Marcus Garvey. As you know, Marcus Garvey was the forerunner of Noble Drew Ali. So for anybody to, talk crap about Pan-Africans when he was the forerunner. So let me read this. It says right here, the last part is the most interesting and explains the historical and racial basis of the new religion. It aims to rehabilitate the Negro race by calling it Asiatic, Moorish, Muslim. Here appears the Moors who are ancient Moabite and founded Mecca and also, let me just go down. The Moorish Americans, that is the Negro, must be united under the direction of the prophet Noble Drew Ali, whose harbinger has been Marcus Garvey. Just as John the Baptist was to Jesus' harbinger, so please don't attack Pan-Africans when Noble Drew Ali followed Marcus Garvey. This is Pan-African, the Garvey connection. All right. Now, here it goes. It says, no matter what Drew Ali was to the establishment, and this is from the Moor Science Temple, who did not take him serious. So his followers found new life, hope, and lived again. He was taken seriously. He was their prophet and a leader of great significance. To them, he was the anointed one of Allah who appointed to lead black people from the darkness into the light in the understanding of self and of their true African ancestry. A lot of that stuff came from the tribe of Ben Ishmael. It's the Ben Ishmael tribe. But right now, let me just stay focused on where I'm at. So when you talk about Islam in America, how did Islam, because you know, Moors, they say Islam, 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 but they don't want to practice Islam. They say, well, that's old time religion and all of that. But it wouldn't exist without Islam. So the Quran and all of that wouldn't exist without that being brought to America. The history of American Muslims goes back more than 400 years, although some evidence suggests that there were Muslims on Columbus ships. The first clearly documented arrival of Muslims in America occurred in the 17th century with the arrival of slaves from Africa. Scholars estimate that anywhere from a quarter to a third of the enslaved Africans brought to the United States were Muslim. So you know it had to be Moors who were brought here from Africa. Now, he wants to go and find stuff that say that there were Moors here. But what about Vespucci? What did he say? He said, we did not find that these people had any laws. This is the people that was in America. They cannot be called Moors, nor Jews, but worse than Gentiles. So he said, yep, they wasn't even practicing religion like that. So he knows better than you, right? Furthermore, now this is from Barrow, DP, Berbers, and Black. This is a book. And it says, furthermore, America is not fully intelligible until one has seen Barbary. The life of the larger part of the New World is full of arts, institutions, and terms of speech that have been brought from Africa by way of Spain. Barbary, Muslims. However, now this is from African Muslims in early America. However, Muslims also experience often hostility and hardship when practicing their faith. Ayubu Salamin Diallo was pelted with dirt by a white boy in Kent Island, Maryland, as he prayed. Others were forced to wear sacrilegious clothing, ignore dietary rules and religious fasting, or abstain from the required prayers. An unnamed Muslim in Louisiana confirmed this hardship in 1822 when he lamented that his situation as a slave in America prevents him from obeying the dictates of his religion. So A1, stop talking about, I know this debate ain't even about him, but I'm calling you out. You're going to get this word too. Stop saying that people, we wasn't slaves, only Slavs were slaves, because I got Moors who were slaves. Moors. Let's talk about it. Ex-slave. And this is from the Michigan Chronicle, 1944. He spent most, all right, it says right here, he lived there off and on until 1940. No, let me go right here, my bad. David Franklin, born December 18, 1822 in Montgomery County, Alabama, passed November 10th, 1944 at 7 p.m. at the age of 122 years old. He was a resident of Flint, Michigan, where he resided at the home of a brother and a sister-in-law, Mr. and Mrs. L. Hopkins Bay. Spencer street rights were from the Moorish Science Temple for the age ex-slave, David L. Franklin. He was an ex-slave. And what did he talk about? He said he spent most of his time in his declining years, talking of his life during slavery, and in regret over the loss of his son, sold by Mrs. Calliope. Many times he told how his mistress, Miss Calliope, would hide the slaves in numerous holes over the plantation when enemy soldiers approached during the Civil War. And that's a black man, a Moor. Now here's another Muslim, Omar ibn Said. Indeed, I wish to be seen again in our land called Africa, in a place of the sea called Gambia. Let me play this video because I'm pretty sure my time about to come out.
The Black Muslim movement grows its emphasis upon things African. This was the secret to the growth of the Black Muslim movement. African blood, African origin, African culture, African ties. And you'd be surprised. We discovered that deep within the subconscious of the black man in this country, he's still more African than he is American. We didn't want anybody to tell us anything about Africa, much less call us an African. And in hating Africa and hating the African, we ended up even hating ourselves without even realizing. Because you can't hate the roots of a tree.
5 minutes, brother. 5 minutes.
Origin, and not end up hating yourself. You can't hate Africa and not hate yourself. And you show me one of these people over here who have been thoroughly brainwashed, who has a negative attitude toward Africa, and I'll show you one that has a negative attitude toward himself. You can't have a negative attitude toward yourself, positive attitude toward yourself, and a negative attitude toward Africa at the same time. To the same degree that your attitude, that your understanding of, and attitude toward Africa becomes positive, you'll find that your understanding of and your attitude toward yourself will also become positive. And in hating our features and our skin.
I'm gonna stop it right there. And that's what Malcolm said. You can't hate Africa. Now we back at the destruction of black civilization. Nothing was more characteristic of the mixed breed clans, tribes, a society than their unceasing effort to emphasize their separate identity and their constant fear of being considered Negroes or black Africans. So this has been a thing where they mixed breeds didn't want to attach themselves to being an African because they were being considered second-class citizens. You got the Croatan Indians of North Carolina, a mixed blood race of Negro and white around an Indian nucleus whose identity has been completely lost, where for years, classed with the free Negroes, they persistently refused to accept the classification or attend the Negro schools or churches, claiming special privileges on the ground that they were descended from a native tribe and early settlers. So they didn't want to be African. Terms like quadroon, octoroon, mulatto, Creole, and mestizo are all reminders of successful Eurocentric efforts at dividing up peoples of predominant or known African ancestry. In essence, it appears that Berber is to Moor what mulatto, quadroon, or octoroon were to Negro in the American South. There's no denying that the typical present-day Moroccan is primarily an amalgam of African, Arab, and European blood, and this is from Othello's Children in the New World. All right? Conquerors had to be anti-African. African Muslims were superior to non-Muslims. Racist ideology fashioned by the misunderstanding of biblical texts made being African a curse. A prince is a Moor of this. However, his present appearance suggests a doubt. The objection is that he is too dark for a Moor and his hair is short and curly. So these is racist shit that was going on, that was going on in Africa, even for the Moors of that day. This is Turks who were Turk woman who married Negro was ostracized by members of the clan because he had Negro blood. At various times, they have been classified as whites, Negroes, and members of a third race. Like most members of South Carolina, large colony of raceless people, the Turks have lived on both sides of the racial fence. According to tradition, the Turks are direct descendants of Joseph Ben Haley, also called the mysterious Ben Ali. So they was like Negroes, but they didn't want to be called that. Although the Turks and the Negroes occupy similar marginal positions, the two groups are not close. The Turks go to great lengths to avoid identification with Negroes. They exercise their own form of ostracism towards the Negro. So all throughout history, you seeing people trying to disassociate themselves with being black. So this is why Noble Drew Ali was like, we ain't gonna call ourselves that. We ain't gonna call ourselves Negro. We ain't gonna call ourselves black. But pick the word that still meant the same thing. Etymology, and you wonder why nothing changed. This is the last video.
And when the late, great political scientist Ali Mazrui, who was known for doing a series back in the 80s on Africa, he was Kenyan born. He actually said, black people are the only group in the United States that is designated racially as opposed to geographically, right? Or nationally. And this is part of the problem, right? You have, and that's why I've said to people all the time, why don't we speak of yellow Americans, right? If we're going to use the color nomenclature, use it across the board. Just use it all the time. But someone will say, well, I'm Irish, I'm German, I'm black, and they're running through their lineage. And I'm going, all right, Germans come from Germany. The Irish come from Ireland. Black, what is that? At least, because we don't know where we're from. You can at least say Africa. At least say Africa, right? At least say Africa. I know I have some African
Time.
age.
Shout out to Brother YK, man. We about to get ready to get into the third round, y'all.